Fate of the Day is Volume 2 in Rick Atkinson's trilogy about the American Revolution. I've been totally looking forward to this ever since I finished Volume 1, and the title of that was The British Are Coming. This volume covers the period from about December 1777 up to the spring of 1780. It starts off with the British capture of Fort Ticonderoga and ends with the British capture of Charleston, with stops along the way at Saratoga, Valley Forge, Brandywine Creek, and plenty of other places. The most important thing about this period is this is when George III took his country from fighting an annoying little uprising to fighting a world war. Let me start off by saying this book is very well written indeed. Rick Atkinson has a very fluid, engaging style of writing, and it's not at all dry as dust academic gibberish. He draws you into the narrative, and even though you come to this with some knowledge of what's going to happen, he makes it come across fresh, and he maintains plenty of suspense. Along the way, you also get plenty of insights into why things are working out the way they are. Now, for example, I think you'll find his presentation of the Battle of Saratoga as particularly well done, especially including the complicated relationship between Horatio Gates and Benedict Arnold. Along with great writing, he's done a super job in mastering all the material for this period on all aspects of it. He even spent time in London studying George III's private papers. Now, when I get into a book like this, I realize how little I really know about the subject that I thought I was already pretty familiar with. I think it's great that there are people like Rick Atkinson who are prepared to devote substantial parts of their lives to pulling all of this stuff together for us, so we don't have to do it. Now, this book is very comprehensive. He gets into the political, the military, economic, and social aspects of all that's going on. For example, he describes the collateral impact that the French entry into the war had in terms of the security of the British home islands, as well as the security of other parts of the British Empire. Now, dauntless as a project like this is, he weaves it all together so well, so seamlessly. It hangs together really great. The price you pay for this amount of comprehensiveness is length. This book is over 800 pages long, but I gotta say, they are a very worthwhile 800 pages. Finally, I think I've got to say that Atkinson tries to be objective in his judgments. Now, there's no question but that he's an American and he's rooting for the Americans, but what I mean is that he depicts, say, George Washington in a very, very realistic way, not overlooking his shortcomings as a tactician, but giving a very balanced view of his overall performance. Similarly, he doesn't demonize somebody like Bannister Tarleton, although as far as I'm concerned, he very well could have. And he doesn't depict the British generals as bumbling idiots. Instead, he stresses the discombobulated command structure that the Brits were operating inside of in this war. In reading this book, I found myself wondering whether there was any strategy available to the British that would have given them a victory in this war. My guess, after thinking about it, is that there really wasn't. Atkinson likes to point out in his lectures that only about 19% of the colonists were loyal to the British throne, and he argues that that was not sufficient for the Brits to establish a permanent political ruling majority in the colonies. In addition, the British were operating at the end of a 3,000-mile supply line, which was simply unworkable with the transportation technology they had available at the time. And on top of that, the British had other things on their mind, like the security of their home islands and the security of parts of their empire, like the Sugar Islands, that were a whole lot more valuable to them than these 13 colonies. I'm absolutely looking forward to the next volume in this trilogy. I know Rick Atkinson will do a great job. I enjoyed reading this one, and as you can tell, I completely recommend it to you. I'll see you next week.